I know people, including Crystal Howell, chartered professional accountant who loves corny. There she goes. She loves.
Ready?
Crystal's like, I wasn't ready.
This. I was dying. I don't think we should have been booed
It
for
was
any of them.
perfect. It was
No.
perfect.
And at least not being told that I was coming in, my laughing was genuine.
It was. You see? There you go. I told you I wasn't lying. Crystal is one of those people. She loves corn.
She
The
loves the
important thing
corn.
is it makes us smile. Yes, it makes us
Indeed.
Yes.
smile. That's what's important. Yeah.
Crystal,
She
as you get yourself
Paulette likes
together,
it too.
yeah, probably having a
Mhm.
ball there. That Scrabble one,
Yeah.
Marcia Grant also likes it as well. She says the Scrabble one, not bad at all. Listen,
Not
Crystal, help us to
bad.
manage some money now. Help us to manage some pennies. Of course, that's what you help us with every Monday. Look at those grinders there.
Get it out, girl. Get it out and let it infect someone. That laughter, let it spread.
And this is such a serious topic. I'm trying to put on my serious face, but
All right, here's
I
what
can't
we're
Keep
gonna
that
do,
smile on.
Crystal.
Keep that smile
Here's
on.
what we're gonna do for you, Crystal. We're gonna get the director to close the screen. Shane and I are gonna be on screen. You will do the thing, and everything will be fine. It'll be like that thing they do on social media, and then you come back and everything's great. Okay? All
The
right, let's do
challenge.
it. Gonna We are going to get into our conversation now with Crystal Howell. She is, as I mentioned before, a chartered professional accountant, and she has been taking us through some paces to help us understand how we can survive and thrive after losing our jobs. Well, some people have gone through that situation, and so we want to make sure that they're armed with the information. Crystal, thank you so much for your patience and for assisting us in being able to connect with Peter earlier. So now we are ready to focus on this week's subject area.
Yes. I know even this weekend I would have had a session with the Barbados Workers Union, and of primary concern for a lot of persons is how in these times, how do you save? How do you get going with a small business? How do you thrive and make sure that you can still make ends meet with what is all that is happening, especially persons who, for all intents and purposes, the job that they would have had before COVID, they're likely not going to be able to go back into that field anytime soon, if at all. So
Yeah.
being able to look at alternatives is something that persons are going to have to take seriously. And I know that's particularly difficult for persons that spend most, if not all, of their lives in a particular field. Being able to then shift your mind to something else or something that's completely out of the scope of what you've done before is something persons are now going to have to think about, maybe even for the first time in their lives. But we have to start those conversations now, because putting it off does not put off the reality of the situation. That's unfortunately the facts that we have to start facing and dealing with. But hopefully, you would have the help of professionals through these kind of programs that would be able to at least start you to get your mind into that frame of thinking. So we would have outlined some of the advantages of being in full-time employment, and this is in no way to say that the only option you have is to go into your own business venture or to start a small business, because there are still a lot of advantages to going into full-time employment for someone. You have the potential of group health insurance, employment insurance, vacation pay, sick leave, the list goes on. So having someone or an entity that will take care of those things for you is usually something that makes persons willing to give up some of their freedoms that you would experience with being self-employed. And a lot of those costs and things that you would have to worry about as an entrepreneur, your employer is the one who will have to take care of those. So there is always a cost and benefit that you have to weigh whenever you're making a decision for one over the other. I keep telling persons no one outweighs the other. It depends on the individual and what your preference is. But for some persons that would prefer to go into full-time employment, you're now going to have to examine the skills that you have and weigh them against the options that you see that are available. And for some persons, when you're looking at the requirements for some of these jobs, your skills will need to be refreshed or updated. And that's something you're going to have to work towards. Is not something you can snap your fingers and say by tomorrow, I'm going to have these additional skills or anything like that. But at least if you start to get a feel for what the market is looking for, and you can identify where your shortcomings are, you can then work towards closing those gaps to make sure that you are as marketable as possible.
I'm glad you brought up this topic because I've been having a conversation around contracting and self employment with a family member of mine. He right now has the option of either transitioning back into government or staying with the contractual side of things. Of course, there are opportunities on both sides.
Yeah.
Your advice, because I know on one side you have to pay NIS on your own, and the money may be more in your hand.
Yeah.
On the other side, there are deductions, and the money might not look like that much. What is your take going forward for more people? Because I know more businesses are also promoting contractual arrangements so that they can avoid paying the benefits as well. What are the trends, Crystal?
I would say it definitely depends on the individual, and each person is going to have to weigh the different factors to see which one presents more of a benefit for them. So I even had a friend who was weighing the same decision, but he wants to have more flexibility because he likes to be able to spend more time with his family. And whereas with a job, you may have certain benefits, the demands on your time, they tend to be inflexible. Whereas if you have a contractual arrangement, even though you may have to take on more responsibilities in terms of submitting NAS and doing other things on your own, maybe not having as much vacation as you like, taking care of your own sick benefits and insurance and everything else, you may
Yep.
think that is okay because you now have the flexibility and time to spend with your children and family that you didn't have before. And there really isn't a cost that I can put on that. So my advice as an accountant, you may throw that out to the door because when you weigh against some of the intrinsic values that you hold dear, it really does not add up for you. So I would tell
Mm-hmm.
persons to weigh the benefits, weigh the costs, and you will have to assign what value you have for these different things. So there's some persons going down and arranging all these things for themselves, that's not a big deal. For other persons, the mental strain of having to do that is too much. So it really depends on the individual. I can only um, outline what happens with either option, but you're the one
Right.
who's going to have to decide which one means more for you. There's no right or wrong answer, but just make sure you
Yeah.
have all the facts.
As you spoke about it all, Crystal, I was just there thinking the segment is called Managing Your Pennies. And sometimes with your regular employment, you feel like you're not sure how to make the money do everything that it's supposed to do. So imagine now people being thrown into unemployment as has happened. It has got to feel overwhelming at points. But I think that these guidelines that you have been giving have been incredibly invaluable to helping people get their minds around situations.
Yeah, I hope so because I know going through this alone, it's an incredible mental strain, and there are a lot of persons who put pressure
Mhm.
on you. Oh, you should be using this time to start a small business. You should be using this time to do this, and you should. There are many people who can't even get past the mental shock of what has happened to them. So I'm hoping that this coaching will help persons to feel as though they don't have to figure out everything on their own. There's someone out there who's going to try to help them with the parts that seem difficult. There are institutions out there that are going to help you. You're not in this by yourself. please don't try to take this on by yourself. It is a lot. Don't let anybody make you feel as though it isn't. So take all the help that you need, but I do hope that you move with some urgency, because the reality is when those unemployment benefits stop, it's going to get more difficult. And I don't want persons now in a
Yeah.
situation where the very small lifelines that they've had, those have even run out, and now your options have come to the point where it's very difficult to give you proper advice on how to get out of your situation. So I hope persons take a hard look at what it is that they have to do, investigate their options between being fully employed, being a contractor or a consultant for certain areas, or going into being fully self-employed and working and identifying customers as you go along. So you have to weigh that freedom and flexibility that you would want, the availability of jobs, because what you offer may not necessarily be something that persons are looking for. So you
Okay.
always have to make sure that you're offering something that the public wants before you go there launching into something full time. So, that's why a lot of people
Excellent.
use use it while they are fully employed, to see how people take to what they're offering.
Crystal, thank
Due
you so
diligence.
much.
Do your research. Yes. Go ahead, Shane, with the thank yous. We certainly
Yeah,
appreciated it.
yeah, I was going to let you round it off, but you said it right, Cassandra and Crystal. Your contribution right here on Morning Barbados is definitely invaluable. We can't put a price on it because you're helping so many people to manage those pennies during this pandemic. You stay safe. And
Yeah.
as always, keep us updated. We want to hear more about that BWU meeting and those other meetings that you've been having, helping people across the island. You be good.
Bye, everyone.